Good morning, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Creepy and Weird podcast. And be sure to either email your questions or suggestions for the podcast, or else write a comment on YouTube. And also, we have things like shirts and keychains and other merchandise available in the store, and those links are also in the video description.
We're ready?
Yep.
All right. So, hello and welcome to Creepy and Weird podcast. I'm Jamie.
I'm Amy.
And we're trying to get back to form here. So, yeah. What are we doing today?
So, today we're talking about the Wendigo.
Okay. First, though, can I go off topic for one moment?
Yes.
I'm so happy with that ruling earlier, and I didn't want to get, political or anything, but, yeah, fuck that guy. Anyways, the Wendigo.
The Wendigo, yes.
Sorry.
So, the Wendigo.
Yeah, we wanted to do this in the wintertime. We had talked about it then because it's just a nice, spooky winter tale, especially if you live in the northern climates that we do. And
who knows, we might get more snow, so...
I know. We're supposed to wake up to snow in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's like April. So it's always the April snow. Anyways, oh yes, and just to state, today we're recording on 420. So yeah, happy 420 to all of you partakers out there. Lucky bastards that live in recreational states that are not Pennsylvania.
Smoking the devil's lettuce.
Yeah. So, anyway, sorry. Back to the Wendigo.
All right. Well, the Wendigo is either a mythological and monstrous creature or a type of psychosis named after this creature. It's usually depicted as tall, monstrous, and gaunt, and it smells of decay. In some traditions, it was so hungry for flesh that it chewed off its own lips. It is said to be able to possess humans and cause them to commit acts of cannibalism. They were associated with coldness, the north, and starvation, and they are part of the belief system of the Algonquian-speaking tribes in Canada and the USA. The Wendigo was also associated with people resorting to cannibalism when food was scarce, or, other than that, with human greed. Various traits could put a person at the risk of being possessed by the Wendigo, and the legend warned against greed, gluttony, excess, and isolation in favor of sharing, moderation, and community. According to oral tradition, it preys on the weak and socially isolated. Usually, they are possessed after dealing with adverse conditions such as cold or starvation. It served as a way to warn people against immoral social behavior. The native peoples now associate it not with the wilderness or literal starvation, but rather with the excesses of colonialism and capitalism.
Some people believe that the Wendigo is a cryptid. You know, there are people that think this. It is in cryptid lists. You know, so, I mean, whether you believe it's a real creature or, I personally myself think it's, the cautionary tale of, especially for wintering communities. Because, that is the whole point, you need to have a community, we need to have each other and help and whatnot. But if you go alone and you're greedy, you end up eating your family. There are many cases, too, that have been associated with the Wendigo psychosis. There's, Swift Runner?
Yeah.
That was the most... one of the early ones. And I think one of the more notable cases, too, of recently was the Vince Lee, 2008 in Winnipeg, I believe. The Greyhound bus guy.
So there have also been cases of Wendigo psychosis, which are often retroactively diagnosed. In the 80s, there was much controversy concerning this among anthropologists, psychologists, and ethnographers. Some argued that it was merely a myth, and that researchers were taking it at face value rather than seeing it as symbolic. The psychiatric disorder included symptoms such as depression, thoughts of harming oneself or others, and a compulsive desire to eat human flesh. In popular culture, games, comic books, and TV shows have included entities or characters influenced by the Wendigo. Algernon Blackwood wrote a story called The Wendigo in 1910, and many children in the 80s and 90s first heard of it from the series Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. survival horror game Until Dawn features the monsters as the main enemies?
It's one. I have that game. I love that game.
Mm.
Actually, I think the Wendigo bonus for Until Dawn for me was like a bonus. What I liked is the various outcomes. You know, like there are so many different ways that you can play that game, and there's so many like combinations and possibilities and ending, and you know, like depending. It's one of those like every single action you do in the game has like a ripple effect, you know, and so it affects like the entire. You can do something stupid, like I think it's like if you kill the bird or you throw the snowball at the bird and kill it in the beginning of the game, like with the one character, it totally affects your end game. Yeah, but no, I love that game. And what's a really popular book? Pet Sematary, Stephen King's Pet Sematary, and which I have to say, even with the remake, I liked the remake. It was all right. I liked how they changed it from Gage to Ellie, you know, to give an older child who can articulate dialogue more, you know, the ability to work with some of the dialogue they had. But I loved in the book, like just the shit that Gage would say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, yeah, that's not a toddler.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't know. I've always been a sucker for Wendigo tales, but it's also like the winter ghost story too.
I thought it was. Oh, there we go. The Wendigo. We have an illustration here. You got to show the illustrations.
Yeah, the bloody footprints.
Yeah.
You know, that's something too, that, you know, when reading into hypothermia and how, you know, it works and kills you. It's so funny because like even reading that specific story, you know, where like they just find the dude's clothes. He leaves and they find his clothes, and that's actually something that happens for real with people who are suffering hypothermia. Like you get so cold that you get so hot, and they'll strip.
Yeah, they think they're hot. Yeah.
Yes, they think they're hot, and
they take their clothes off,
I just kind of always remember that from that story.
Yeah, the end of this is he walked over and he asked, "Are you Defago?" The Indian didn't answer. "You know anything about him?" No answer. He began to wonder if something was wrong, if the man needed help. But he couldn't see his face. "Are you all right?" he asked. No answer. To get a look at him, he lifted the Indian's hat. Then he screamed. There was nothing under the hat but a pile of ashes. But this gives the impression that he, like, burned up, but, you know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, he didn't really burn up, though.
Not literally, but...
No.
Yeah. But
he
anyway,
did from hypothermia.
Good stuff.
Yes.
Let's see, where were we? In 2008, Vince Lee hallucinated the voice of God while on a long Greyhound bus ride. A carnival worker named... what's his name? Tim McLean or something? Okay.
Yeah, Tim McLean.
There we go. A carnival worker named Tim McLean was seated nearby, asleep. Lee, who later changed his name to Will Baker, said the voice told him he must kill this man. He pulled out a knife and went to McLean's seat. He killed, dismembered, and partially cannibalized McLean on the bus outside of Manitoba. He was later sent to Selkirk Mental Health Center for 9 years for treatment. He was granted more and more freedom over time as his treatment progressed. He had been living on his own, but he was supervised while taking his medication for schizophrenia. After his full release, his medication use was also no longer supervised, and the review board apparently believed that they could trust him to take his meds, which kept him from hearing the voices that made him kill the guy. They did not consider him a threat to the public, and he was considered not criminally responsible for McLean's death. And McLean's family spoke out against the release when he was released.
Yeah, they were very, very much so opposed to it. Also, some of in one of the notes that I have over here on Lee, when he went to trial, he entered a plea of not guilty of the murder and decapitation of Tim McLean. And there were also the claims that were supported by various psychiatrists that valued him during his incarceration, that supported, him not being guilty of, outright murder, and, getting but what bothered the family a lot too is when they had found out that, so he was Lee was sentenced to, a high risk mental institution where he received mental help, because clearly he has an illness. And once again, that's just something that we don't emphasize too much on anymore, like in America. It's jail. Jail is where people go, even if they are mentally ill. So the fact that they could actually assess this guy and rehabilitate him is a good thing. And to my knowledge, he's still, he has had no other crimes. He has responded to his treatment and everything. I think he was discharged in 2017 from the institution where he was at. And even as soon as 2011, the doctors had started seeing him, like fit to get day passes and go out and off the grounds and everything, which I know the family had a huge issue with. But I mean, I understand their feelings also, because, to them, they wanted justice, but you can't really give out justice in something where we're dealing with mental illness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but apparently the people on the bus, it took 5 hours. It took 5 hours to get him off the bus and into custody once this all went down. All right. And so, and also Tim McLean was sleeping. He was sleeping. And then Lee went and sat with him and had the knife. And like, as soon as he pulled the knife out and started stabbing the guy, that's when the bus stopped and, everybody freaked out, started to get off the bus. And there were also passengers that had been on the bus that they barricaded him in there. Like they were blocking the door to keep Lee on the bus. Because they already knew that McLean was dead. So, and they were worried about themselves, and trying to get police there and everything. And yeah, so by the time police got there, it took them 5 hours to take Lee into custody. I mean, yeah, that's a novel thing here too, because in America, they just would have shot him.
Yeah.
They would have shot him. They wouldn't have waited 5 hours. They would have been like, there's a body. He's eating a tongue. We're going to kill him now. And I can't really say what the appropriate response to that situation is. I mean, that's also, once they detained Lee, they did find that he had multiple body parts of McLean's on his person. He had his nose, his tongue, and his ear in his pocket. So, yeah. Whoa. Yeah. Like, and I understand there was just a lot of weirdness with this, a lot of weirdness. And yeah, I mean, once again, when you're riding on a Greyhound bus, you don't expect the guy you just picked up to, stab another person that's sleeping.
And start eating him.
Yeah. So far, though, and there's been a lot of claims of like Windigo psychosis that people have attributed to this case. So you're hearing voices and they tell you to kill somebody and eat them. So kind of falls in line a little bit, maybe. This was something like from one of the cops. Listening to the police on their scanners as Lee was on the bus, it even sounded like they couldn't believe the words that were coming out of their own mouths as they are dealing with a guy who is eating the flesh of the man he just murdered on the bus. And there is a video that I ended up watching, and it was like news footage. And yeah, like when you can even like the calls and stuff, and you can hear the police like speaking to each other, and they're just incredulous. Like they weren't prepared for this situation at all.
It's not something you see every day.
No, it's not. Well, maybe not in Canada.
Well,
I mean, we've got the guy in Miami who ate the other guy's face. I was actually on vacation in Florida when that happened.
bath salt zombies.
But he wasn't. They found out he had 0 drugs in his system when they ended up getting that guy's toxicology report back. Like, that's what was crazy about that.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, at the time it was like, oh, guy's on spice or whatever, and then you find out like, holy shit, no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
No, he just did that.
Yeah. And yeah, it was like super funny because like traffic's all backed up and we're just like, what's going on? Well, the cops are killing a guy who just bit another guy's face off. You're fine in the traffic that you're stuck in. So Swift Runner, I'm trying to find the confession letter. I know there's a video on YouTube where the guy reads it. But even still, like, he was one of the first. I mean, I don't know if he's actually the first. But I know he's one of the Canadian cannibalism cases. And that was in May of 1879 is when he was arrested. He had 6 victims, Swift Runner did, and those were all of his family. And he was a Cree Indian who lived the last century in what is now Alberta. His background seemed not unusual. He had a pretty, basic upbringing, and yeah.
Until it became unusual.
Yes, until the winter of 19. I think it's just natural for me to say, 1878 through 79. It was a time of starvation and misery for the Cree people, and he claims that he became possessed by Wendigo psychosis, and he had grand delusions and the cannibalistic impulses and everything, and he murdered his wife and his entire family and cooked and ate them. He was eventually arrested and brought to trial in December of 1879, and he was hung at Fort Saskatchewan. And let me see here. His execution took place at 7:30 a.m. Yeah, apparently he was like a huge dude too. But then again, it's like, looking at that at that point in time, and then now just seeing the stats, he was only 6 feet tall. That's not that. I mean, I guess it would be by those standards. Then people were shorter, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was also a very popular guy in the Cree community. But the problem that people claim too is that he ended up with a fondness for whiskey and fell into alcoholism, and and he would get really drunk and angry, and people knew it. It wasn't like a secret. I guess he was on the police force for his tribe, and but he was fired because of his alcoholism and his anger. And then not only that, him and his family were kicked out of their tribe. So this is how they were on their own to begin with.
Well, that explains it.
They were kicked out of the tribe because of his violent tendencies. And
He was violent and drunk.
Right. So that winter, after getting kicked out, he took his family, his wife, his 6 children, his mother-in-law, his brother, and they all went out to the forest, to try to survive and live. And about several months later, he came out of the woods and into a Catholic mission, and the priest asked him what was wrong. And he said that his entire family was dead. So that was kind of the problem here with this case a little bit, is that, he wasn't exactly honest or forthcoming at first. Um, but then, what happened is he hadn't been able to find any food throughout the winter, and he told them that they all starved to death. All right. Like, oh, we couldn't find food. My family starved to death. That's how they're all dead. But the Catholic priests at that point, they were suspicious. They weren't really buying his story because he looked healthy. So, like, you want to come out of the woods looking at really healthy and, maybe a little chubby, and then say your whole family starved to death. That kind of calls you into question just a little bit there. And so, and they ask, like, hey, why didn't you starve to death? And that brought up his whole story into question. Oh, apparently he had constant nightmares that disturbed the Catholic priests, and he would wake up in the middle of the night like screaming, tried to lead a group of children out into the woods. That was apparently the last straw for the Catholics at the mission. So, he tried to take a group of kids out into the woods, probably to eat them, But yeah, so they were convinced, the priests were convinced that he killed his family. And so they went to the cops or the authorities, whichever. And they arrested him and made him take them to his winter campsite where they all were. Now, I've read different accounts, and this is also where they kind of differ a little bit on what exactly it was that happened next in the story. Some people say that he immediately took them there, and other claims were that he tried to mislead the cops and like led them, like other places, and would only cooperate if he was drinking and if they were providing him with alcohol. Either way, though, the campsite did get discovered, and then they found the remains of his family. There it was littered with bones. And so, yeah, we find no family, we find their bones. We can only assume what happened here. But their assumptions were slowly put to bed the moment they found a pot that was filled with human fat. So, yeah. It was at that point in time, once they discovered the pot of fat, that Swift Runner himself had claimed the Windigo Defense. All right, we're going to call it the Windigo Defense. But it's how he defended himself by making claims of the Wendigo. And at that point in time, he claimed that he had been possessed by the evil spirit. And once he was possessed by the spirit, that's when he murdered and eaten his entire family. But, they didn't, the jury didn't really, go for that. At the time, and I think it only took them like 20 minutes of deliberation.
Dang.
To find him guilty. He ended up writing a confession letter.
Yeah.
And it like is fucked up. Like, really, just the description of how it came to be when he like murdered and ate his son. Like, yeah, or maybe it was his brother. It was one of them. But it was fucked up. And yeah, so that is Swift Runner. But yeah, that's what it was. It was the first time that somebody tried to legally use the Wendigo, Wendigo psychosis as a defense. But he wasn't really using, he was claiming he was possessed. So
yeah, strange stuff. Watch that thing on Dennis Nilsen with David Tennant.
Yes,
that was good. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Not gory though, so if you're expecting gore, don't.
Yeah, no, it was actually really rather tame.
Mm-hmm.
But he still did a really great performance. So yeah. I thought he did really good as the. I still don't know what to make of Nilsen though. And I like how they portrayed it in, where he's just like, telling them whatever they want to hear. And they hadn't even figured out the worst of it.
I was just thinking of that when you were talking about pots full of human fat.
Yeah, Swift Runner.
He had the head simmering overnight or something.
Yes, and one thing I will do, I will give law enforcement that handled his case, I give them credit, because they literally did everything by the book. And so, like, and even still, like, I don't even think they realized what they were getting into when they first, but it is suspect though when you have body parts jamming up the main of your apartment building.
Yeah,
so
that's not normal.
It almost, like, I know you know more about him than I do. I really don't know a whole lot about Dennis Nilsen.
Oh, hold on. I almost bought another copy of this book because I was looking all over for it, and it turns out it's on the new bookcase.
Oh.
I mean, it's like right the fuck there, but I don't have the dust jacket, so.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I got this like 20 years ago. It's like it has. Oh, here we go. This is the strange stuff here. It's got. I didn't even get the drawing. These people like tied up and shit, and.
But I still think like
There's the guy in the dresser. In the cupboard and then on the bed.
He had to have wanted to get caught, though. You don't clog up your freaking toilet because you don't want
Flush
caught.
people in the toilet.
I'm serious, though. You don't do that shit unless you want to get caught.
Yeah.
I could never get rid of a body in mine.
Poor Bleep. Bleep on camera. He's a cute little guy. Bleep, the dog.
Yes.
She died under anesthetic a few days after Nilsen's arrest.
Oh. The other night, though, I did binge watch some Bailey Saren, and mainly because I just wanted to watch her do the makeup. It's like, I'm familiar with all the cases. Yeah, so I'm not there for the true crime. I just want to see the look. And outside of not on the internet too, I've been watching Falcon and Winter Soldier. Once again, I'm addicted to my Disney Plus, and being I can't claim that I'm not a Captain America fan. Oh, I can't even show it right. It's there somewhere on my arm. Oh yeah, yours. Your new tattoos.
Oh yeah. Shout out to see if they're, like, Rick and Nex are actually watching, right? Since I showed, I left postcards at Austin Inc. where I got these fixed up again, but, gotta put that on the right camera. David Bowie's Black Star album, and he's been dead 5 years, plus some months now, and, Genesis Briar Peorage has, been dead a year and a couple months now. And that's when I got that one.
Tattoos are fun. Sorry.
But these remind me of the good things in life, art and music and such.
Right. I just have a comic book character on my arm. Dude, it was so funny when I first got this, and it like the shield wasn't even colored in yet because it's lineless, so it's all shaded. And it was so funny because I had people that would just see the shield, not colored in, just the black and white, and they would get super excited and like grab my arm. And they're like, "You have a Captain America tattoo." Like, I went to an amusement park and I was like, "Oh my God, like I need like a sleeve or something." Cause yeah, it was just like all day long. People were like, "Oh my God, I love your Captain America tattoo." And I was like, "Thank you." And this was also right when I had already had the tattoo started right before the Avengers came out. The Avengers movie. And then, yeah, once that happened, it was just like, oh my God. I don't know why people get super excited over that one. And then I have that one over on that wrist, if you can see it. to my little skull. Wrist tattoos. I didn't think mine were too bad.
Well, I didn't mind the lines, but like the black fill there.
Yeah.
Like, well, I feel that now.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching, and until next time.